So today on the Soundiron Podcast, we are going to talk about all the things that need music right now that you can start plugging into today. We're going to talk about the YouTube Creator Summit. We're going to talk about productivity because we always talk about productivity. And we're going to talk about artificial intelligence improvements, things like DALL-E 2 and AI art and text generation. So, Craig, are you ready?
I have a question. Is us talking about productivity being productive, or is that non-productive?
That's a fantastic question. In this case, it's productive because it's work.
This is true. All right.
I'm on the clock right now.
Yeah, me too. I got a clock right in front of me telling me that I need to hurry up.
Yeah. As far as the YouTube Creator Summit.
Mhm.
So every year, YouTube has a summit where they bring all the quality creators on their platform together and they kind of cast their vision for the year. Marquez Brownlee is a tech YouTuber that you've probably seen. He does fantastic tech reviews on YouTube, and he has a podcast called Waveform. And he interviewed the head of product at YouTube. So I got to listen to that this week, and I was pretty excited about takeaways. So the first big thing is that they are monetizing YouTube Shorts. They are going to add it to the YouTube Partner Program, and you get a 45% cut as a creator. What this means is that they are going to be doubling and tripling down on Shorts. So it's a good time to make YouTube Shorts. The other thing is they're really excited about podcasts on YouTube. And so they're trying to compete with Spotify, and in the attention economy, they're going to be ramping up suggestions for YouTube Shorts and YouTube podcasts. You with me? We about to make some Soundiron Shorts.
I'm just sitting here thinking I got to start making some more shorts.
So YouTube has the ability to just flip switches that say, hey, suggest 10% more shorts to this user. Suggest 20% more shorts to this user. And then once you start watching shorts, it's a feed-based algo, starts learning your patterns and your interests. All of a sudden, you spent 3 hours on YouTube Shorts. That's what they're hoping.
Oh, damn. It's crazy because I don't know about you, but I don't really watch a lot of YouTube Shorts. I think, every now and again I'll look just to kind of see what people are doing on there.
Yeah.
But I really, as a person who uses YouTube, I really don't. Even Instagram Reels, I don't really watch Reels or anything like that. It's more or less kind of searching for the content that I want to see,
It's because you're old.
But, yeah, I don't know what the term is. No, not a boomer. I'm not that old.
You're an elder millennial is what you are. But it really matters if you're viewing from desktop or from mobile, I think, with YouTube, because if you're viewing from desktop, you're probably looking for more long form content. Whereas if you're scrolling with your phone on YouTube, they recommend shorts a lot. And the shorts are, bite sized. You click on them and you enjoy yourself. You move on.
Yeah.
So that is the deal with YouTube Shorts. And if you are considering making music at this time, you should consider putting them on YouTube Shorts. It's there's really no downside to it. Yeah. So as far as things that need music, you can start plugging into today. I wanted to kind of brainstorm with you on ways to use your music. If you have a catalog of, say, 50 songs that you've composed or 50 tracks, and they're sitting on your computer collecting digital dust, where should you be putting those? So plugging them into media, hopefully, is the job of a media composer, right? So I'll give you my list, and then we can kind of bounce back and forth. So right off the rip, YouTube Shorts, TikToks, Instagram Reels. Then we've got library music companies, like stock music kind of stuff. We've got boutique custom music. We've got making practice tracks. We've got video games, VR, AR, and then just distributing your music with a distributor like DistroKid. So as far as if you had a pile of music, and maybe you do, where would you put it? Where would you start?
I mean, because I know nowadays people are putting their stuff on Spotify or stuff like that. When I first started, I'll just go from myself. Is I started putting stuff on YouTube, and like SoundCloud, just to like have a way of being able to like send it if someone wants to hear it. I mean, if you're making a bunch of music, like it kind of depends. Like if you're putting your stuff out there, let's say you want to get into like making library music or production music or something like that, maybe using that like post on SoundCloud, have a reel and send it to people and use that as your way of trying to like, do more music creating for that thing. Or if you're using it to try and land gigs. Cause that's the thing where I start to think, it's like, well, are you trying to get hired for something, or are you trying to like make some money off of this music? Or because then it really comes down to like, well, when you create the music, like what is it? What's the plan for it?
Hmm.
I mean, if you're just like, I just make music for whatever, and I don't really have any plan, it's kind of hard to like know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So I think it helps to definitely like have sort of a mission of like, okay, like I'm making this music and I want to start getting hired for making video game music or something. It's like, are you making music like in different genres so you can kind of show your versatility as a composer? Or if you're doing like kind of like when we talked to Aaron Grubb and he was like, yeah, I make these, Legend of Zelda covers and I put them on Spotify. And he was talking about how he was trying to, kind of like hack the whole, Spotify platform to work in his favor and get people to listen to his renditions of these pieces. Like
Right.
that's a very specific goal. And
Hmm.
that's why he was successful, I think. Having kind of a goal. If you're just like doing things at random, it's kind of hard to really like be successful with it, I think.
Yeah, the shotgun approach is a little tricky.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to just start doing stuff. If you're just like, oh, I just want to get, I want to do like a song a day because I want to just like flex my creative muscles in that way, and just being able to like strike whenever and not just depend on creativity to strike.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, all right, want to do that. I think like that. I mean, like when I was first putting my music out there, yeah, it was just like YouTube. I wasn't necessarily like putting out like the actual tracks. It was like, demo tracks and then like playing guitar playthroughs or something.
Hmm.
But it was just a means to like show people like what I'm working on, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
Showcasing is a portfolio.
yeah.
One thing that I had some mixed success with was taking my catalog of personal music and uploading them into a Dropbox folder and then sharing it with specific people who I was happy to share royalty free music with.
Hmm.
And these were all like video editors, filmmakers, and they could look at these categorized folders and just plug and play these compositions. And so my goal at that point was to get music into media of any sort.
Hmm.
So just some sort of like visual medium. As far as how it worked out, I would say some editors used it a lot. Some people used it once. Some people looked through it and were like, oh God, 150 songs, that's too many, and just bailed.
Hmm.
So it was mixed, but offering resources to people is definitely a great place to start. So
Hmm.
if you know someone who's making YouTube shorts or Twitch streaming or anything like that, and they're in the filmmaking space, then it's probably a good idea to reach out and say, hey, I'd love to make some custom music for you.
Yeah. Almost like it's like a different approach of like working for free versus like there's a gig, chicken or the egg kind of thing. Hey, like I have this thing. Would you be able to help? But I can't pay you. You're like, well, this would be cool because it's going to get my stuff into this thing.
Hmm.
Versus like I have this thing now, I want to give it to you, so put it in your stuff. Yeah, it's a cool approach because it's definitely like a little bit different because you already have the product. Now you're just trying to like give it to these people, and then hopefully if they like your stuff, then they'll hire you back. So it like that, like that's what made me think of that, is that it kind of all comes back to maybe this could be a thing that pays off in the end, or someone else hears it and then wants to work with you and like, oh wow, this dude's just like giving away all this stuff for free. Like this is really good stuff. Like I would pay this guy because I like what it is. So then it's sort of, it's just a great way to just kind of like, I'm just going to get stuff out there and see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of the times when you're forming relationships, you do a gig that doesn't pay well, and then they get a better gig down the line, and they're like, "This dude did a great job for me," when it was a $25 situation. When I bought his lunch and he composed 3 minutes
Hmm.
of music or whatever, and so those kind of situations are really good when you have foundational relationships with people. Another thing is video games. there are so many indie video games on Steam and Epic Games and on the web, and all of these things need music and sound effects. And so it's actually quite easy to go on LinkedIn or Steam and find the email address and just shoot a cold email that says, "Hey, played your game, really cool.
Hmm.
Would love to make some sound effects custom for you guys that are, an improvement over what you have." Or like, "I heard the stock music in this. We can do better," kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how easy it is to get a hold of people. You just got to do a little bit of research and legwork.
Right.
I mean, because there's times I've reached out to certain developers, and maybe if they were like, this sounds cool, but maybe we already have someone for the job, or right now we're not looking for that, but maybe down the line we can reach out to you or something. It's just kind of like, doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't if you get a no. Like, if
Mhm.
anything, it's just like, at least if you got a response, that's something. Like someone saying, this might be something that we can do down the line, versus like no response, like that's some kind of progress, because at least now they're like aware of you. Or well, maybe it might down the line, like, oh yeah, I remember that one person reached out to me and their stuff sounded cool, but it wasn't really what we were doing at the time, or we were, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was too late in the process or whatever.
Yeah, because a lot of these games, like, they've been in development for a few years already, so.
Well, a lot of these little games, like web-based or like games that update frequently, I'm not talking about massive games that Jason Graves is working on. Like, you're not really competing with Jason Graves at this point.
Oh
But
no.
I'm talking about indie games from independent developers. A lot of the
Mm.
time, it's one or two people working on a game, and it's just their passion project.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like one of the things I always remember Sean Chasen talking about, and for anyone who's listening to this, if you want to watch this video, it's on our YouTube channel. It's a pretty popular video. It's him talking about scoring video games, and he has on a few occasions talked to me about the game jams, where you just go and you do a game jam where there's people like making a video game over the weekend, or like a
Mm.
few days or something like that. And you just like hop in, cool, I want to join, and you're like composing the music for this game, and it's like you're trying to put it all together pretty quick. And he's like, there's people who I've done game jams with that I still work with today.
Yeah.
Just a quick little fun thing. And I think it'll definitely test you, and probably make you crank out something pretty good, because you have this like very narrow window of time that you need to do something. And the cool thing is, like, you're meeting people who are doing stuff that you want to do, like they're making games and you want to put music to them. And seems like a really cool way to make friends in that world, because you're working with them just right off the spot, kind of thing. Like, oh, cool, let's do this thing.
Yeah, it's similar to the 24-hour film fests, like that kind
Hmm.
of concept. I like that.
Yeah.
You gotta fish where the fish are. Another cool thing that I saw recently was the idea of practice tracks. So if you're a drummer, you can make practice tracks, or if you're an instrumentalist of any sort, you could make a track, and it's basically replacing a metronome for
Like backing
people.
tracks.
Yeah, it's just like Carter McLean is a drummer who plays with Charlie Hunter a lot, and so I pay attention to both those guys. And they made an app called Wheelhouse, and it's basically a metronome app, except it's Carter McLean playing drums.
Hmm.
So you get to have a really, really great drummer playing with you at 120 BPM, and you can play guitar, and it's not quite as much of a chore as click, 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 click.
Oh yeah.
Making backing tracks, those can get millions of views sometimes on YouTube.
Yeah, there's times I've gone on YouTube and looked up backing tracks just to like, jam over, like, oh, it's this like little, gypsy jazz backing track in A minor or something. Like, oh, you just want to, practice some cool new like Hungarian minor scales or something, and do that kind of thing. And just like throw that on, and you could just, loop it and jam along to it. And yeah, that's a great way. Like, it's funny, like, did you ever do Guitar Mageddon growing up? Did you ever do
No,
anything like that? I remember when I did one when I was like, I don't know, 17 or 18.
it's like a
And it's like
camp.
it's like a little guitar competition,
Oh,
where like they'll give you a CD that's got a bunch of these like little backing tracks, and then you pick the one that you like, and you go up and you do your best like solo to it.
oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But like I always liked using that backing track that they gave me is a way of just kind of practicing over, just like working on my improvisation and phrasing and stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, I always loved jamming along to those, because yeah, I'm not a fan of metronomes. My early days of practicing was jamming along to just albums because it's like they have the tempo, and I'm just
Some
trying
of
to
them.
like work, yeah, or not like not the tempo, but like like just like following a sort of
Yeah, yeah. I understand
yeah,
exactly what you mean.
yeah. So just doing that kind of thing, it's like at least you're working on playing along to a drummer or a
Right.
band kind of thing. But yeah, I never liked metronomes. They're so boring. I'd rather just jam, yeah, to jam to a drum beat or something. That would probably be more fun than clickety clackety.
The other thing, so stock music, library music, I feel is very saturated and you're just swimming in a sea of other people's leftover music a lot of the time. And
Hmm.
so if you're brand new, I wouldn't say start there. It doesn't hurt to like put your stuff on there if you're willing to take the time, but I would probably try to go premium instead. So I would take the boutique custom music, and that typically looks like a contact form on your website that says I make custom music for people, contact me for rates or whatever. You can make great music that is a one of one exclusive for a customer
Hmm.
rather than them somehow finding you in a sea of stock music.
Yeah. Also, reaching out to YouTubers and stuff too. Like there's one guy who I've been doing some music for a long time on YouTube, and I mean I got that gig kind of because of a sword he was building for the singer of my band.
You said a sword?
Yeah, he makes giant swords. His name's Michael Crawwell.
Fantastic.
He goes by Mike Cthulhu. And yeah, he had a show on, I think it was like History. It was called like Big Giant Swords. And he's like this like wacky dude who does like all these like crazy videos making like humongous swords. Like he did like the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy and like all kinds of crazy stuff. And he was doing one for the band that I was in, and the singer knew that I wanted to start doing stuff like that. So he's like, "Hey, maybe you could like give him some music and do something with him, you know?"
Yeah.
And he liked the stuff, and I've been doing music for him just like after, like, "Hey, if you ever need anything." But like don't be afraid to like hit up, YouTube people, because a lot of people are looking for music that isn't getting copyright strikes.
Mhm.
So it's like, it could be doing like a intro music for a podcast, or people who are doing these long form contents and just need to fill in the space and they don't want to keep using the same tracks over and over. If you see someone on there that's doing something that you like or you think you'd be able to do some music for, definitely reach out.
Yep. The next thing is on productivity. I found a good list of productivity tips. And so this guy has his current principles listed. Number one is work on getting things like task lists out of your brain. Also, work on getting other nagging thoughts out of your brain. Journal if you need to, but this doesn't require a fancy task manager. So for me, I use Todoist, which is an app, and they also have a web app, but I use it mostly from my phone.
Hmm.
And anytime something's like nagging me, like I'm driving or in the shower or whatever, I'm like, okay, I have to put that down on that list. So I have stuff categorized like the honey-do list, like stuff around the house that I've got to fix, or stuff at Soundiron that has to get done, and what's the highest impact thing on this list, and you can
Hmm.
move stuff around. You also use an app, right?
Yeah, I used to use Asana. Yeah, I was using Asana for a long time. I haven't really been using that as much. I've been mainly using like what we have, where it's like a list of like kind of like a production week thing where like I'll have a list on the side and I'll
Hmm.
just insert stuff that need to be done, and then I'll jot like how long it took me to do it, stuff like
Nice.
that. So it's kind of like a time manager and also like a list. And you can like color code stuff when it's done, like color code like, oh, this is done, mark it green or something, that kind of thing. I mean, I could probably insert checklists and stuff if I wanted to do that too, just what's like done like that. But yeah, Asana's really good. But sometimes that stuff can almost get in the way and you feel like you're worrying too much about like designing this thing, like something like what you have just like to do. It's like just a list. You just write it down, move
Yeah.
stuff around, check it, and it's gone.
When things get real serious, I pull out the piece of paper and just write real big. And then when you get to scribble it out when you're done, it feels good.
Yeah, or just crumble it up and just throw it against the
Yeah.
wall.
Burn it.
Don't what you yeah, burning it's good. Yeah.
This says when you can structure your work so you have a natural starting point when you pick up the task. So, for instance, if I'm making ambiances for a library, I will try to make 20 ambiences and loop them, and then I can take a break. And when I come back, I know that they have been made and looped, and then they're ready to map.
Mm-hmm.
And then another example, he says, try to arrange your workspace the way it needs to be to get your next unit of work done before you leave for a meal, break, or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So that one is pretty self-explanatory, but just like set your things up before you leave so that when you come back, it's very easy to hop right back into it.
Yeah. That's why I think it's good to have things set up in a way that like allows you to do the things you need to do. I know we had a Cameron on here a while back, but he just recently posted a video talking about kind of I think he got some book called like Essentialism or something.
Oh yeah.
And it was just talking about, having the things there that you need to be creative and not just having stuff that's just kind of sitting there.
Cluttering everything.
Yeah, because then you're like, do I use this for music? Howdy doody, buckaroonies.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, like sometimes I think of stuff like it kind of made me think like, oh, like, you start looking at your desk, like, yeah, I don't use like my Rolly C board or like the machine as much, but it's kind of like it not like it being there is not like making me like, oh, because there might be that time where I want to just have it pretty much like my essential sort of like tools, or even like back here, like, a little handpan and a violin that I can't play. And it's like, but it's more just kind of for aesthetics, really,
for vibes.
It's like, yeah, it's just for the vibes. You gotta have the vibes, man. But yeah, but I feel like I'm pretty happy with it. Like when I walk in here, I'm not like, except for when I'm filming or something, I got like camera here, camera here, camera here, and then I got like cables and stuff, and I start getting like, oh, like that's why I set up stuff to where I can just put stuff away in my closet.
Nice.
And I have like you had the same thing too. Like I got like a light mounted here, and I got a light back here. So it's just kind of like, I could just turn that off and turn it on and done, sort of thing. And I like being able to set things up in that way so that it just allows me to kind of like knock out the stuff that I need to quickly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, because I've had people say like, man, like you guys are putting out like a video or a product every week, and it's like, yeah, I gotta get that stuff done every week, so I have to set things up in a way to be able to do that.
Yeah, we're running an assembly line here.
Yeah, come on, man. There's a lot of people out there that are doing this sort of thing, and you need to be able to do that kind of stuff. And it's cool to see other people like Cameron who are like, you always have to kind of think about that stuff every now and again. It's like, all right, I got to rethink this. Like I've already done that in this space, but
many times.
Yeah, I know. I'm like telling you, like, hey, I'm thinking about just like taking everything apart and just like restructuring everything. But I actually really like this. Like, I feel like I really don't know where to go from here unless I put my desk on the ceiling or something. But I don't see that happening.
Timestamp it.
Yeah. You're like, hey, yeah, you're gonna pull this clip.
Yeah, in 6 weeks.
And throw it in my face. Like, hey, remember that thing you said on the podcast? Yeah, you're full of it.
All right, so number 5 on the list is automate things, even if not many. There can be a power law type phenomena here. A few automated text replacements with a tool as simple as Text Expander or Alfred can have enormous benefits. Whatever the handful of things you always find yourself doing is, there's probably a way to automate it. So we've talked about that with using the Stream Deck. And I use auto hotkey a lot. So I'll set up keyboard shortcuts. Like if I type in THX, it says, thanks for reaching out. That kind of stuff. Just saving characters.
Interesting.
Saving those wrists.
So you just type certain letters and it'll
type the rest of it for you. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I've never experimented with auto hotkeys. I know I've heard a few of the Soundiron members talking about it, but I never really, messed with it too much. It's just like a program you have on your computer.
Yep. It just runs in the background.
Interesting.
You can add stuff to it. And I also use it for Wavelab when I'm looping a bunch of stuff. It'll basically mess with the GUI and go back and forth and help me loop way faster.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
It's fun, man. You should try it.
I know. I'm getting to the point where my hand's just going to fall off. Sometimes like by the end of the day, like, do you ever have it where like you get so caught up in what you're doing, it'll be like, oh, it's 3.5 hours and you're just like, your hands are just moving back and forth?
No.
Like, yeah. Sometimes I get like, just like deep into whatever I'm doing. And then I'm like, oh man, like my forearm, I have to like stretch. Cause like, I'll get this, like, it just feels tight. I'm like, yeah, I need to like stretch and take a break or something. Cause I just get so like, I mean, even using the trackball helps, but yeah, it's like you gotta take breaks.
Sometimes if I'm like editing the podcast or editing a video for a long time, like very focused, I'll stand
Mhm.
up and I'm like, oh, my butt.
My back. A composer that I know, he told me he had a thing where his Apple Watch would go off every hour and say stand up.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty good." Where it's just like, like, go walk around or do some stretching or something cuz yeah, it's so easy to just get like immersed in whatever, especially if you're like working on music. Like that's usually when I get super like if things are going good, I'll get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And I'm just like and I don't want to break it. Like, "Oh, I just got to tweak this one thing. I'll do that in a little bit and I just kind of finish this thing." And it's like,
So switching subjects here, have you messed with Dolly 2 at all?
no, I haven't messed with any of the AI art stuff. I was starting to look into the Midjourney stuff
Yeah.
because yeah, I know there's some people that have their thoughts on it, but it seems like there's actually a lot of people that have been embracing it,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and, and it's been yielding some pretty cool results. Like there's times I've seen some stuff and I'm like, man, like I would use that as like an album cover. Like that is
100%.
really cool. And that's where I think, it could be cool. Or just if you're trying to create some new unique image to use as like inspiration for music, there's times I've seen some images and like I'm immediately start thinking like, how would this sound? Or like, oh, that'd be cool to like try to compose something to that. And that's where I think it could be useful. Like, is it going to replace people who do digital art? Like, no. I think there's a lot of things you could use with it and then, tweak stuff or use it as inspiration.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of cool possibilities with it. I think with anything, when you start talking about AI, people just get scared, but it's like, how can you use that in your workflow?
Right.
Maybe think outside the box kind of thing.
Yeah, there are two schools of thought, I would say. One is like this dystopian future, terrifying, the bots are taking over kind of thing. And then the other one is technology is always evolving and we're always changing with technology. So, how will we use this new tech to
Hmm.
assist our process? And I mean, this art space is very interesting to watch. And I think you and anyone should really be messing with it because it's coming to music next.
Hmm.
So Midjourney is a Discord community, and you pop in there and you write a prompt like Craig, or like let's say long ponytail, tall man with a guitar stares into a sunset, and you send that to the AI, and it will generate a piece of art. It will actually generate 4 pieces of art using that text prompt, and you'll be like, one of these is really cool, and you'll say like, print this one in high res,
Hmm.
and it will give you a lovely picture of Craig in a art form of some sort, and then you have this new art that was drawn or painted from this AI. DALI 2 is now free. There's no wait list. Well, it's not. It is free to try.
Hmm.
Um, there's no wait list anymore. It's open, so you can go to the website and sign up, and you can start doing text prompts and getting art back. Then there's also text ones. There's one called Once Upon AI Time, which is clever, and you basically type a text prompt, and it will write you a fairy tale story based on it. So I did one for our artist Spencer, where I was like, Spencer is an artist living in Oregon who loves basically taking trash and turning it into treasure. And it
Hmm.
gave this huge, like, multi painting thing along with a long story, fairy tale style, about Spencer's business.
Oh, wow.
It was fantastic. Another one is summarize.tech, and you can post a YouTube video link into it, and it will scrape it and then summarize what was said. So you could pull up like a long seminar or podcast or whatever, and you could then read this text summary that the AI reports. And it did a pretty good job. I actually did our podcast,
Oh, yeah?
and yeah, and it was funny. There were a couple like goofy things that it said, but overall it hit the main points.
Yeah. Me just saying random.
It said Craig James, which I thought was kind of funny. I'm like, is that Daniel James? Rick James?
Rick James.
So this was from our podcast on work-life balance and Bruce Springsteen that we did. In this video, Soundiron Podcast host Craig James discusses the work-life balance challenges faced by musicians and how Bruce Springsteen overcame them to achieve a legendary career. James notes that not everyone will enjoy the same types of music, and it's okay to have different opinions. He also advises listeners to not attack one another over music preferences and reminds them to catch up with Craig next week. And then it does like the timestamps. And a lot of these are wrong, but a lot of them are right too. So they talk about Steve Van Zandt. Bruce Springsteen's career is a testament to work-life balance. His mouse from Logitech is recommended for those with wrist pain or carpal tunnel issues. So
I mean,
it picks up snippets of what we're saying, which is pretty impressive.
It's like Bruce Springsteen loves to use Logitech's mouse because it helps with his wrist pain.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, man, I got to go buy that.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen uses it.
I'm sold.
I mean, it gets the gist of it, I guess.
And then there's another one that writes ad copy for you. And I actually haven't used that one yet, but I need to because I write a lot of ad copy. And so these are tools that can assist you in your work or in your play. And I think Spencer's a good example of someone who uses these tools effectively to create better, faster art. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that he's like terrified of that it's going to take his job. It's something that he's using to assist his job.
Yeah, you don't let the tool replace you. You use the tool to stay employed.
Don't be a tool.
Yeah, don't be a tool. Use the tool. That's the slogan.
Getting a t-shirt of that. So now we can move on to our recommendations section. I don't know if you have any recommendations this week, but my recommendation is on National Geographic. It is Epic Adventures with Bertie Gregory. And this dude is like 28 years old, and he's one of the best drone pilots on Earth, specifically with wildlife, capturing wildlife and landscapes. And so he puts up these like $15,000, $20,000 drones and flies them with this headset. And he's a legend. It's crazy. He's just like this nice British guy, and it's very entertaining TV. So it's on Disney Plus. And if you like nature, wildlife shows, you should definitely watch it.
Nice. Shoot, recommendations. Well, this is a relatively new thing. It's been out for a couple weeks now, but Ex Machina. I mean, if I'm going to recommend, do you want to put these hands on your own music? No, but like, I would recommend that. I mean, it's we haven't talked about it too much on here, but that was a fun and crazy project. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but yeah, I'm super proud of it. I've always wanted to kind of do something like that with, creating a guitar library, because, it's like, I think every person has like a certain sound in their head. And with this, I really was very specific about what I wanted it to do, like super easy to use, but has that sound that you can go from, really soft playing to like super aggressive,
Yeah.
Not everyone out there is doing death metal, but if you do, it'll work for it. Yeah.
And it works for other genres too. I use it for funk and jazz and some rock, and it's got some nice clean tone as well. And I can tell you from my perspective, as someone who watched from the beginning, and when by watch, I mean I literally just watched. I didn't do almost any work on this. But from the beginning, you had a vision, and it kept growing for a while, and you were like, oh wow, this sampling process is exhausting. There's a ton of it, but it was a labor of love that you kept doing, and early mornings, long weekends, and I think the final product turned out fantastic. The GUI is very usable and understandable, and the sound is killer. So congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you. I know, man. I gotta catch up to you. You got a bunch of artist libraries already.
I went small though.
Yeah,
I kept it small. You went. Yeah,
because you're smart. That's why you're smart. I do things. I just jump in the deep end, and I'm like, I don't know what I got myself into. But yeah, I'm just so glad it's done. The feedback's been really cool so far. It's always cool hearing how people use it, and just being able to, if my hands ever stop working, I have that.
Yeah, you got your guitar can be on tracks around the world.
Yeah, but just being able to like write stuff and have it kind of sound how I would want, because that's the thing. Like, when you use certain virtual instruments, everyone has a certain sound that they hear. Like, that's why people like certain libraries. They have certain sounds or the way they play. And this is, for me, really cool because it's like, not only, can I use it for, creating without a guitar in my hands, but, like I did a video talking about layering. And that is like such a useful tool, especially for me, because like quad tracking is such a pain in the ass.
Right.
And it's not like you should just be like, oh man, I suck. I don't, it's not that I can't, but it's a time saver. Like, or being able to like drag in Guitar Pro MIDI and just being able to like hear an idea really quick and be like, oh yeah, I didn't have to bust out my guitar and practice this thing to hear, like, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And that's where it's super useful for me. So yes, it was a selfish thing. I made this because I wanted to have it, but it's cool that now people who aren't guitarists or whatever can make guitar music. And
well, that's a great place to start. Almost anything is, I wish this was in the world for me, and then make the tool.
Yeah. Make the tool. Don't be a fool.
Oh, back to the tool jokes. Listen to Tool.
Yeah. Listen to Tool or Drool, you ghoul.
Oh, wow.
I don't know where I'm going with this anymore. It's all over for me.
All right. So we're recommending Ex Machina. That's a solid recommendation. If you haven't watched the videos and listened to the demos, do yourself a favor and do it. It's
Headbang while you do it.
A multi-genre party instrument.
Yeah. Just shred everything.
You probably don't own a 7-string electric guitar, but Craig does, and he sampled it for you.
Yeah. And it was a guitar that I like when I got it as a gift from my amazing girlfriend. I, got to pick all the specs, and they were very specific because there's just like certain, going back to the sound thing, there's like a certain sound that you want when you play, and then there's like a certain sound that you want from the instrument. And yeah, I was just like, man, like if I could take this anywhere now. So, and now you can too for 3 easy payments. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah. Typically $5.49. Those long infomercials.
Yeah.
Get a free cleaning rag.
Yeah. And if you buy now, you'll get 50 cleaning rags for the price of one. Just like, this is too much. I don't need all these damn cleaning rags.
All right, cool. So I think that's the recommendations. We talked about things that need music. We talked about AI. We talked about productivity. I think we're good.
So that about wraps up this podcast of the Soundiron Podcast.
It's Venus Theory.
For the people listening to Howdy Doody Buckaroonies.
Yeah, thanks for listening to the very end of this podcast. If you're still here, leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do all the things that you know you're supposed to do and you haven't done yet.
Yeah, you're listening. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Especially if you listen more than once. You're back. So you should subscribe.
I can't wait to figure out which part of this podcast we should turn into a short.
This one.
This one right here. We're just finishing it.
Yeah, this is the short. Hey, this is the Soundiron Podcast. You want to listen to some cool people talking about cool stuff? I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the other cool people that we have on the podcast. And there's a whole bunch of them. So click that button.
Craig, I will catch you next week, my friend.
All right, man.
All right.
Until next time.